Hello, hello, hello. So it's 2021 and it seems like things are beginning to get a bit better. I feel like there's an optimism that will conquer any obstacles we may come across, but 2020 was a hard year and I still feel the scars of it. But I think that's gonna get better as time goes on, but not just because time heals all wounds, but because I live in the Nordics and it's really fucking dark here in winter. In fact, it's so dark here that from the beginning of November to mid-January, the sun's rays don't actually hit the shores of the beach that Alfred and I go to for walks, because the tiny hills here are actually enough to block it out. What I'm trying to say is that it's dark, and that combined with all the summer residents not being here because, you know, it's not summer, just makes the island feel dark and empty because it is dark and empty. There are two ways to deal with this. You can either be the islander that drinks yourself dumb and watch TV on the couch and get fat and be sad until the sun comes back. Or you can be the kind of islander that drinks yourself dumb and enjoys nature and the company of the few people there are still around, and do stuff like play old ass video games in a circus trailer in the middle of the woods. And if you're wondering what kind of island I am, you haven't been here long enough. In either case, please join me on a trip to the primitive world as we have ourselves a circus trailer LAN party. I got in the Audi and then I drove into the woods. The trailer is on the east side of the island, just a stone's throw from the ocean, just like, well, you know, everything else. It's only about 100 meters away from the main road, but it's hidden away by a winding road that snakes in on itself, and is on a less traveled part of the main road, so it feels very secluded and very isolated. I arrived just as the sun had set, but there was something that needed to be done before we could get our game on. Winter is coming and has, well, already arrived actually. And the wagon is currently without water, and a water line in the ground needs to be finished, and for whatever reason, it had to be finished the day I arrived, so I helped get it done so that we could have water and internet in the circus trailer. And then the realization was made that it required a lot more than just digging a trench, like making the plugs that go into the wall and hooking everything up, drilling holes and stuff. Look, I'm not gonna bore you with the construction talk, but we couldn't finish it up for, well, reasons. Anyways, let's pop the cork off the wine and let's play some Hero 3.
Det var nok den her. Okay, vi har faktisk ramt en rimelig linje. Ja, det var faktisk.
A thing I really like about A Night of Heroes 3 is that it's the tale of a singular game, because, well, they are just that long, and this was no exception. It was us three against two computer players. We were in the middle and they were somewhere else. But who are these people, and where are we, and why is it so messy in this trailer? Well, these are the boys, Daniel and Oliver. They are two new arrivals on the island that, after spending a month here in the summer, decided to take the plunge and become full-time islanders. They live in the circus trailer here temporarily. It's in someone's backyard who lives in a house very close, and that is also where they shower and poop, because the bathroom doesn't work here for, well, whatever reason. The owner had previously lived here himself, and he's a bit of a character, and he had some very strange ideas about interior decoration, like the kitchen unit being in the middle of a very small trailer. So they are still in a bit of a settling in phase, and they are still moving their stuff in and rescuing furniture from the dump and fixing kitchen units and all that. And they are also just very messy people. Anyways, back to the game. The game started like a lot of Heroes games. Everything was quiet with no sign of the enemy, as to be expected for the first couple of days, if not weeks of in-game time. But then months passed and still no enemy. As we explored the map, we learned that us three were on a big island together, and to both the north and south of us were two other islands, and there were faction castles on those islands. We naturally assumed that the enemy was hiding there, and we started looking for a way off our island and onto their island, but we couldn't find a way. There were no shipyards on our island, and none of us had a summon boat spell either. We did notice that there were portals scattered throughout our island, but they were guarded by tough monsters, so we let them be. As the game went on, we stocked up on units and cleared our island of monsters and gathered what resources that were there. We fully expected the enemy to at some point get in a boat and make landfall on our island, and then we could defeat their attacking hero and steal their boat. But that didn't happen. In fact, nothing happened. We could see a fair bit of their coastline from our island, and we could see some of the resources that were on the coast. Resources that should have been picked up by the enemy, but nothing. No one seemed to be there, and we couldn't see far enough to see if the faction castles were flying their colors or if they were neutral. One thing became clear: we had to go through one of the portals. Either it would lead us to the southern or the northern continent, which would either grant us access to more resources and more castles, or it would grant us access to the enemy. But had we known what would have ended up happening, we wouldn't have gone through any of the portals, because we were anything but prepared. We were wiped off the map one by one, and by the time that the last man was no longer standing, it was 4 in the morning, and we decided to call it a night, or rather an early morning, and go to bed. Waking up around 11 with a heavy head, I headed back into civilization for a shower, a poo, and a nap. And then I returned victoriously to the Circus trailer for a sequel to last night's quest. There's something about Heroes. I really dig it as a co-op game. I know a lot of people played it as a versus thing, and I guess that's interesting enough. Or even as a single player game, and I guess that's also cool as well. But for me, it's always been a co-op game. I love getting together with people and playing it and taking on tougher and tougher opponents and odds. I love that as a co-op game, it's not about how tough of a guy you are and how tough of a guy your co-op partners are. It's about how tough you are together. Like, I've been playing with Danny for years, and he's kinda terrible, and I make fun of him for turtling a lot. But I think our styles of play really blend well together. We'll aid each other with materials a lot in the beginning, but then I will start my very aggressive crusade, and he will settle into turtle mode and just hoard resources like a dragon. And he will start sending me resources while slowly building up his own army, because he doesn't lose units because he's not in battle. As I take on the enemy and my forces are whittled down slowly, battle by battle, and I reach the point where I start to lose against the enemy and their overwhelming odds, he will emerge with a massive army at the exact right time, while I retreat and rebuild my army. He will keep the bad guys at bay, and I will come in with a massive army of my own after rebuilding and steamroll the baddies, and we will win. It's a weird strategy, and it was forged by many defeats, but it really works for us. But it only works in this game. We've tried it in Age of Empires 2 and it went really fucking bad. But that's alright. I don't think we need other games to play, really, at least not for me. I play this rarely enough that I lose enough information about the game and the maps we play, to the point that I'm always rediscovering things, because the game is just massive enough that you can't contain all of it in your mind palace if you play at a casual level. But it's not so big that you forget about whole gameplay elements. And it's a game that you can play pretty well when you're under the influence. But I think what I adore most about this game, especially as a co-op game, are the moments when you're strategizing and talking to each other and engaging with each other instead of with the game directly. And that's where it's truly magical, when the conversations you have about the game while the game is being played are more engaging than the game itself. And I don't actually think we played the game on day 2, I think I just played Dragon Age Awakening while we talk strategy. Oh well, I guess we'll have to return to the Circus trailer some other time. But for now, I think I better head back to Civilization semi-permanently to, you know, catch up on real life. But this break, this 40-hour break was really nice. I don't need to tell you that 2020 was a shite year, because it was, and I bet we're all tired of hearing about how shite of a year it was, because, you know, we were all there. My 2020 was no exception. There were points where I just wanted to go to sleep and not wake up until the virus had died out. And there were darker times where I just wanted to call it quits on my company and become a wage slave so I didn't have to be saddled with a massive weight on my shoulders of having to make ends meet running a business in its first year in the middle of a worldwide pandemic. But I didn't, and I have moments like this in my life to thank for it. I can't imagine having lived anywhere else but here during a time like this. Because around here it wasn't as bad, and the streets being empty is something that we're used to in the darker months to begin with. So the adjustments to the streets being that most of the year wasn't as hard of an adjustment as I imagine it must have been in a lot of other places. I got to work 10 hours a week and still make a decent salary. I got to surf, I got to walk my dog, and I got to play old ass video games with people because there was only one instance of an outbreak around here and the rules were pretty lax. So I had it fine, you know, I got by and I felt so fucking guilty about feeling bad. Like I hadn't earned the shared worldwide suffering. And I know deep down the suffering isn't something that you have to earn, and it isn't something that should be measured up against anything. You should be allowed to feel down and bad because you feel that way, and not because the amount of stuff that happened to you is at such a high level that you're allowed to feel that way. And I hope that others during this past year realized that before I did. And if you didn't, now is the fucking time. If anything, I hope this fucking year taught us to, I don't know, be fucking better at taking care of each other. But I think this has been it for me. Until I see you, or well, rather you see me, take care and take care of those around you. Until next time, bye bye.